So the contractor booking goldmine that most SA operators overlook. Where are the highest demand areas and where they're not, or should I say, and why they're not where you think? It's not just the big cities. The best areas are often industrial zones, transport hubs, and large-scale project locations. I would actually go as far as saying stock inside city centres is just not good for contractors. That's not what you want. You definitely want stock around the fringes. You want to be looking at where there's a lot of activity going on for sure, where there's massive infrastructure projects equals massive demand for contractor accommodation. So, think like, obviously the HS2, I think it's been abolished now, but HS2 was one thing, major roadworks, power plants getting built, any sort of long-term big projects that are going on in your city, so maybe like, for example, in Newcastle, there's been proposed that there's a 280 million Sage building getting redone on the quayside. There's proposals at the minute of a brand new football stadium, to replace St. James's Park. So that type of stuff is going to bring waves of people in. However, they don't want to stay in the city centres half the time. They want to be able to come out slightly. So where you have your stock is really key, but ultimately finding out where those demand areas are. Now, you can go on like constructionmap.io and find out, what's going on. You can search government websites. There's so many ways to, but there's also some, other free tools that you can use and, construction news articles, which will give you insights into what's happening and what's being awarded. And then from that, you can make decisions on where you're going to lay your roots down and ultimately where you're going to build your ContractorBnB portfolio. Now, how large are companies, agencies, and the direct contractor booking properties? Like how big do they need to be? I think, first and foremost, your properties need to be larger. I personally don't think smaller flats and smaller houses work. I think you need to go bigger on this, a bit like HMOs. The bigger the properties, the more profit. But in terms of like the companies booking, you've got all sorts. You've got national and local construction firms. These companies handle housing for the entire workforce, and they just want to secure a deal with one means, repeat bookings, one invoicing system, one reliable and trustworthy operator. And that is, one of their biggest headaches. And if you can take that headache away from them, any of them are headaches really, but definitely at the higher level when they've got bigger teams to house, you've got to, take away the headache, and they will actually pay for that. Relocation and housing agencies, they place workers in properties and they're always looking for reliable SA hosts. So if you can, get online and network and get yourself advertising with these type of people, build a relationship with these type of brokers, then they will pass you business. And, it is a great way to get business. They might take a £2 or £3 a night, cut or add on, but it doesn't matter. They're going to be, doing the advertising, getting the bookings, speaking to the companies on your behalf, and then bringing them in. And I think it's a real strong play to have somebody else doing it on your behalf so that you can then just focus on what you're doing. And every now and then they'll give you a call. Have you got this many rooms in this location? I need to book, blah, blah, blah. We've got this. Can you meet this budget? And you do a deal and you put it together. And we've done a lot of business over the years from doing exactly that. The next is like your facilities and subcontractor networks. So once you connect to the right people, you become their go-to SA provider. If you can really get into the subcontractor market, the subcontractor networks, then they will refer you, they'll pass you on as long as you're doing everything correctly. It really, you have to do everything correctly to make it work. Obviously, you've got to be, delivering on your promise. You've got to be, reliable. They've got to be able to have their access. They've got to have a quality property. They've got to have no problems. All that sort of, stuff goes without saying. But the more you do of this, the more you get referred around the subcontractor networks. And that's ultimately how you end up getting, a large direct booking game. I think our direct booking game last year was either just under 79% or just over. I can't remember exactly, but it was around that 80% level. And it's been around that level for the last 3 years because of this, because we constantly are asking the subcontractor networks, who's next in on after you? Where are you off to next? What are the projects you're working on? Who do we need to be speaking to? And we'll reach back out to them as well, even the ones that have stayed, and just find out like where they're on the move, this, that, and the other. They're back in our area anytime soon. And by doing that, you will pick up bookings. And it is just a process, and it does work, but you have to obviously, do the activity, deliver on the results. So you've got like your national and local construction firms as a recap. Bigger companies, they just want to secure one deal with one person. You've got your kind of brokers, your relocation housing agencies, and then you've got your subcontractor networks. So you've got to, get out there, build all three of them, and then you will increase your direct bookings and ultimately, increase your profitability, because this model is so much more profitable than having loads of different guests coming through. And the difference between hoping for bookings and securing contracts, like instead of waiting for bookings, Successful operators like ourselves are getting in front of decision makers, and we're positioning our portfolio as the best option for their workers for not just price, like the location, the amenities, the mattresses that we put in there, the parking availability. There's so many points that we got, the invoicing structure that we have, the terms that we can offer, all that sort of stuff. And that then positions us as the best option for their workforce, because it's not only easy, it's good value for money. And then we deliver on our promise. So we also then get referred, as I mentioned before. And the great thing about this is, like, when you do it right, one contract can fill your entire property for 6 to 12 months. Like, we've actually had some in now. I think they've just rebooked, which will take them to 2 years in June. Like 2 years, been paying short-term rental money for 2 years for just what we deliver. They could have rented a property, put furniture in, and saved themselves a fortune. Why didn't they do that? Because they don't want the hassle of it. They like the flexibility. They like what we do. It works for them. They're on the project. They don't need to think about it. And that's ultimately, what happens. So when you start tapping into this market, like, your SA business can scale fast. And, in the final video, I'm going to show you exactly what is possible.